Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Nerd Herders. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rich.
And today we are doing our Stream It portion of the week. Every week we have a Stream It section. That's where each week Rich and I, we give each other something that is streaming on Netflix that the other has not seen.
Mm-hmm.
And we watch it and we come back and talk about it, and then we give each other something new.
Yep.
So last week, Rich gave me Lars von Trier's Antichrist.
And Nick gave me the first two episodes of The Flash.
Yes, the CW Flash, not the 90s version.
Yes, to be clear.
So who do you want to go first?
Talk about The Flash.
All right, let's talk about The Flash.
It's fine.
Okay.
I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's one of those shows that I would continue watching, but I'm not necessarily super compelled to, I gotta keep watching it. It feels very kind of Murder of the Week type thing, Monster of the Week. We have this guy. We have kind of where S.H.I.E.L.D. started for me.
Right.
Where it was it's just, okay, it's doing the same thing, but now this year's... I will say it is very cool to see Jesse L. Martin back again as a cop. I didn't realize he was in it, and he walked out and I'm like, am I watching the right show? Where's the rest of them? I think the kid's fine. I think he does a decent job. I'm not in love with him. I'm not in love with some of the intro and outro narration. It feels a little kind of hokey sometimes.
Yeah.
Definitely higher quality than what I would normally expect from a CW show. I know we kind of talked about that. Interested to kind of see, they already tied in with Arrow, which I'm not. I don't watch Arrow, so I don't know if they set that up in Arrow and then they're doing The Flash. Because he seemed to have already known him. He was like, oh, you came all the way out here just to talk to me? Like they were already friends. And I do have another question for you about the show a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah, those are kind of my initial thoughts. I only watched the first two episodes.
There are a lot of, specifically, I think, genre-based shows like The Flash, like S.H.I.E.L.D., like a show that we were talking about earlier in the day, Fringe, where they do begin very serialized in a way where it's case of the week.
Yeah.
Right? And that is how The Flash starts. And it's not that it entirely goes away, but it is definitely front-loaded that way.
Okay.
And then it becomes much more story-driven with a week-to-week basis. But it's not like something like an SVU where you have to go like an entire season to see a character change at all. There is character development over the course of the thing, but it definitely does become, as it goes, way more story driven than I think that you would get from the first couple episodes.
I'm getting hints of that. They're like, oh, we're gonna catch your father's kill, all that stuff, or kill your mother, whatever, catch your mother's killer. And so I can see bigger things kind of starting to happen, but it just from the first two episodes, it wasn't really there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, I knew that would be a takeaway going in. For me, the show is just over the course of the season. I am a big fan of Arrow, and as The Flash started, I was kind of like, yeah, this is okay, but I would say at some point, a quarter way into the season, it was just like, when did the show become like the number one thing that I'm anticipating every week?
Okay.
And then by the end of it, it was just like, God damn, this is like better than superhero movies that we're getting in theaters. And it really is, I think, a rewarding experience to finish.
Okay.
But, if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. But it is a show that has started strong in season 2 so far as well. We're a couple weeks in now. And I think that they're doing some really interesting things with DC on TV right now, between that and Arrow. Specifically they are interconnected, to answer your question. The season before that, they were going to use Arrow as a backdoor pilot for the show. But they introduced the Barry Allen character, and they were going to do the thing where they made him the Flash. But it tested so well, just his appearance before he ever becomes the Flash, that they made it a pilot. So he is on that show, but then they didn't even need to make him the Flash because it just was like, all right, we'll do the season.
See, I would almost have been curious to kind of see that as the pilot and then him become the Flash in the second. The first episode feels very rushed to me. It feels like we gotta hit these beats, we gotta go, so he can be the Flash for the next 20 some episodes. It feels very rushed, and I would have liked to see maybe an extra 2 episodes of kind of developing him as he sort of I know we see that a lot of, like Spider, they're discovering their powers and what they can do, but he seemed to have a very good handle on it right from the get-go. And I was like, that's a little...
He has a good handle on being fast, but he doesn't quite have a handle on what it means to be a hero, and he doesn't have a handle on, he's still learning things that the Flash can do even in season 2.
Okay.
And really what it means to like continue what it means for your life to be this person. And they do handle that in a way that I think, they tried to pigeonhole because they don't have the time, even in the great Spider-Man movie like Spider-Man 2, but certainly they tried to throw some of that stuff into Spider-Man 3 and just didn't have the time, like that. And so over the course of a season, they're really able to explore it, but still in a fun, entertaining way.
Okay.
I love the show, and I know that it's super popular. I think that it's more popular and has caught on with the fans more than I think even DC was ready for.
Okay.
To the point where I don't understand why we need a movie that's not him.
Well, that was another question. This isn't the other question. I have 2 questions I want to ask you about. I'll just ask the first one. At the end of the first episode, it's the end of the first episode, whatever, spoiler, but he has the paper from the future.
Right.
Is he supposed to be? I don't know DC very well. I mean, is that supposed to be? Are we supposed to, if you're a DC fan, is that supposed to, like, oh, he is definitely going to be so and so, or this is what this is going to lead to, or is that totally a mystery, like, across the board? Like, am I missing something because I'm not a DC fan?
That paper hints at things that were major events in the course of DC Comics history, whether it was the Flashpoint event or the Crisis on Infinite Earths. It'd be a spoiler kind of to give away much more than that, but it was very exciting in that paper. Like the great thing about the show is it does pepper in things about DC stuff that's not even on the TV end yet, but like even in that paper there's a mention in the corner about Wayne Enterprises, and there's this and that and the other, and it's just exciting. The show is already going places like deep comic places that I don't think anybody even anticipated this early, like parallel dimensions, a lot of stuff that's in the DC continuity that we've never seen visualized in a live action type of way. So for that, it's definitely very cool. It'd be interesting to see what you thought of it as you went. But again,
we'll see. I may.
You did what you were
keep
supposed
up with
to.
it.
You watched the first 2.
Yeah, that's one you didn't say for you last week.
Yes, I screwed up last week.
But then my other question is, they're doing the Flash movie.
Yes.
Now, is he supposed to be the same Barry Allen?
Barry Allen.
Like from the same universe? Like the same essential reality, or obviously they're both the character of Barry Allen, but are they supposed to be one and the same, or are they keeping the film and the show separate?
DC TV, Marvel TV, maybe to a lesser extent moving forward because of some behind the scenes stuff, but Marvel TV, like S.H.I.E.L.D. and like Daredevil, that we've become accustomed to, is part of the cinematic universe. DC TV is not part of their...
So it's its own... There's a DC television universe and a DC cinematic universe.
Yes.
Okay.
So with that said, I don't think that, I don't even know how you do, as it currently stands, it could change. The screenwriters who wrote the script for the would-be Flash movie are Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Okay. But there's been a lot of rumors that Seth Grahame-Smith has been brought in to direct, and he might rewrite the screenplay. I don't know why you would ever have that guy rewrite a screenplay by them. Yeah. But I can't even imagine a presumably jokey screenplay take place in the same world that Man of Steel took place in, and what it looks like Batman vs Superman is taking place in. Like, there are rumors that the Barry Allen Flash and that's going to have like some sort of a mech suit. There's a lot of weird things going on with it, and I think some of it is a response to people really already like this story. We've already told one of the most iconic stories of Flash canon. What do we do to separate from this show? Okay. I don't know what they're doing. Part of me just wishes they wouldn't even do the movie. I don't know. But it is what it is. We'll see what that movie becomes. Okay. But as it stands now, Flash, Arrow, check them out. Great stuff. And there's a third CW DC show coming in January that will also tie into that stuff too.
Okay.
So, cool. So you had me watch a drastically different
I did.
CW superhero show.
I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this.
So I watched Lars von Trier's film from 2009, I believe, when I looked it up, Antichrist.
Now this was your first Von Trier film.
First Von Trier film.
Okay.
So, you asked me, I think even on the show last week, what do I know about the movie? And I said, not much. I know it has like a talking fox. Like, that's all I've ever heard about the thing. There's like a talking
Chaos
fox.
indeed reigns.
Yes. So basically this movie, it stars Willem Dafoe and...
Charlie Gainsborough.
Yes.
Did you look into the movie before you watched it, or did you go in and as blind as you were?
Okay. Didn't watch the trailer, didn't read anything, nothing like that. Just watched the movie. Knew nothing about what it was. And so the movie starts off with really this like tragic but pretty gorgeously shot prologue where Dafoe and Gainsborough. What is she from?
Gainsborough. A lot of his stuff. Okay. Melancholia and Infomaniac are the last two things. She's done other things.
Yeah.
I know her mostly from Von Trier's work.
Okay. Well, anyway, they're a couple, and in the prologue, basically, as they're having pretty graphic sex for a movie,
she'd seen Infomaniac.
I can imagine. That's all I was thinking. Like that first shot of literally insertion. I was like, you can show that. I just couldn't imagine what that other movie was. Their child dies. He falls out a window and he dies. Sorry, spoilers for the prologue.
It's in the first 5 minutes.
You kind of need to know that context going in. Basically, the rest of the movie is sort of the downward spiral mentally of these two individually and as a couple, and it goes to really crazy places, increasingly crazy places. Basically, they go to this cabin in the woods.
Not the same cabin.
The same cabin as we were talking about the other day, but maybe more terrifying. And basically, Willem Dafoe starts seeing crazy visions.
The setup of the film specifically is she falls into depression and he's a therapist and decides to treat his wife because that is always the proper.
Better than anything.
That's always the right thing to do.
Right.
And so they take her out to this cabin because nature, or the cabin or nature, I couldn't remember. It's like one of her biggest fears.
Right. Yeah. He's doing a diagnosis of her, and she sees, like she does the whole thing like you're walking through, and this is what she sees, so that's where they go to kind of confront it, and it really spirals out from there. I don't want to give much away for people that haven't seen it, but a movie that I've only seen when I was young, and I've seen footage from it before. A movie that I think terrified general audiences is that movie Misery.
I just rewatched it this weekend, actually.
This movie would give misery. If you think of the same situation, like there's a part where a character is kind of chained up in a way against his will, like James Caan in that movie, but to an incredibly different level. There's a part with blood that was so gross.
There's a couple parts of blood there.
Yeah, sure, but there's one specific that was just really difficult to watch.
Yeah.
I respected the craft of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is beautifully shot, wonderfully acted. The story is good and intense. But it's one of those movies where I can't imagine what situation I would have to be in to watch it again, ever. I'm probably good. I'm checked out on Antichrist. I'm not upset that I watched it, per se, because there is a lot to admire there, for sure. I don't think I would ever watch it again. It didn't necessarily, I didn't walk out of going and go, I gotta watch all of his movies as soon as I can.
Well, I will at some point probably recommend you another Von Trier film, but there's some similar themes, but this is like as close to a horror film I think that he's done. I remember when spoiler, I own the movie. I have it. But I remember the first time I saw it, there was a lot of hype surrounding it. And there's two, if you haven't seen it, there's two very graphic scenes in it, graphic violent scenes in it. And I remember kind of the build-up and like the hype. It's like, oh my gosh, it's got this and this in it. It's so graphic. So as a horror fan, of course, I'm like, and this is the first film I had seen too, and I was like, oh, I got to see this movie. And I remember watching it, not really, having not seen Venture, not really knowing kind of what I was getting into, and like walking out, and you can only see it on demand. I walked out of my room, and I was just, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I hated it. I didn't know if I loved it. And as time has gone on, and as I've kind of watched it, not over and over, but on more than once, I'm definitely falling into the love it kind of side of it.
I mean, totally understandable. I could see it. There's so much to appreciate there, but it's not an easy watch.
No, this film is definitely not for everybody. If you're interested, I would recommend it, but this is your warning. Don't blame me if you're traumatized a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, it's definitely a heavy film. But again,
feel good film of 2009.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of feel good movies,
okay.
Why don't we move into our suggestions?
Sure.
Our recommendations.
What do you got for me?
So this is a movie still keeping with the tail end of our sort of horror themed, but probably not as much because we're going to be past Halloween. I've never actually seen this movie. I'm recommending it too because it's a movie that I think that we both have wanted to see, we both expected to have seen, and that I'm very interested to see what you think of it, to see if I should watch it.
Okay.
I've heard good things, so it's a safe recommendation. But that is one Halloween movie that we never discussed, I don't think, at any point, that I liked was Paranorman. And the same people who made that made a movie called Box Trolls that very underperformed. You have not seen it.
I have not seen, but I am a big fan of Paranorman, big fan of Coraline.
Me as well. I love Coraline. I love both of those movies. So Leica, people who made that, Box Trolls is streaming.
Really? I didn't realize it was actually streaming.
It's streaming on Netflix. And so I figured it was something that you would want to watch.
Sure.
And I want to hear how it is. Because I probably won't get around to watching it in the next week. So I don't think it's exactly horror themed, but they made two movies that I would consider watching around this time of year. So.
And that was one of those ones I remember when it came out. I was really excited to go see it.
It just kind of was gone.
It was kind of gone. I just never had a chance to go see it.
So Box Trolls on Netflix is your task for the week.
Cool. Before I move on to your next task, I'm curious. Have you completed your task from last week of finishing I Saw the Devil?
No.
Okay.
I knew that I had to get to this week's, right?
Just powering through.
I didn't want to watch that to not watch this week.
Just leaving it behind.
And I had taken a vacation. I was
okay.
So.
Just keeping you honest here.
Yep.
So my recommendation, I'm going to keep it horror themed. I promise this will be the last horror film I give you for a while. I'm going to have you watch The Babadook, which you have not seen, correct?
No.
Okay.
I've heard really good things about it. A site that I frequent, Collider, posted their 35 best horror movies of the 2010s the other day, I believe it was, or last 5 years, whatever it was. And that was their number one.
Really?
So I'm interested to watch it for sure.
I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
Cool.
I'm interested to discuss it with you once you've...
Sweet. So I'm going to watch The Babadook. You're going to watch Box Trolls. Box Trolls and Babadook, B&B.
Yeah.
And that is what we streamed this week. We'll get back to our Play It, and I'll do the Play It and Pitch It probably next week.
Okay.
You had given me for the Play It, we do a video game thing. You gave me Last of Us. I do not want to talk about the game until I've finished it.
Sure, that's fair, because I'm very interested to talk to you about it as having completed it and where you're at, what you think
and
of it.
I just want to finish it because it's becoming harder and harder to avoid the spoilers for it. I was listening to a PlayStation podcast recently, and they were about to ruin it, and so I said to stop listening. And so I'm gonna finish that. We'll talk about that soon, as well as my Pitch It. So
cool,
sweet. So that does it for this segment.
Yeah.
And like us on Facebook, share the videos with your friends. Let us know if you watched those movies, what you thought.
Yeah,
watch Box Trolls and watch The Babadook this week to catch up for next time. And follow us on Twitter, all that fun stuff.
Have our hashtags around the bottom.
Yep. So thanks for watching. We'll be back again with more later.
Yeah, thanks.